As each day goes by, we are inching closer and closer to the Monday, May 12th NBA draft lottery date, which will determine whether or not the Philadelphia 76ers keep their first round draft pick this year. As we know, a top six protected pick. If they fall out of the top six of the lottery, that draft selection will go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who needed a lot less more than the Philadelphia 76ers do. But in the meantime, over the next month or so, there's going to be a lot of debate and a lot of talk about which prospects the Sixers could be potentially targeting. We've hit on a ton of them already here on the YouTube Sixers Digest channel. Make sure to go back and check all those out. We'll be ripping them out for the next month as we lead up to the draft and then into the draft as well. Once we, knock on wood, get that first round pick and hopefully the number one overall pick. But one of the wide topics of discussion, I guess you could say, over this next month as we lead up and find out whether or not the Sixers will have that top six pick, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or if it falls out of the top six and it goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Should they be drafting for best player available? Should they be drafting for fit? Should they be drafting for need? It's going to be one of the wide topics of discussion. So I wanted to come on here and give my top three players in terms of need for this Sixers roster. And I'm going to preface this once again. This is not the top three picks I believe that should be in the draft, top three most talented players, the top three players that I look at next year's Philadelphia 76ers roster and say, based off both talent and fit, which one of these guys or which of these three guys are the best options for the Sixers. If the Sixers have the number 2 pick, they're not going to be picking the guy that I have at number 3 on the fit list. But in terms of if they're at 5 or 6, I think this guy could be in the mix. The other two players, I think are kind of probably going to be within the top 3 at worst, the top 4. But it's all going to come down to debate as well at the end of the day. But these are the 3 prospects out of this draft, and none of them have officially declared yet. It is widely expected, and it will probably be shocking if these 3 guys all don't declare. But these are the 3 players in this upcoming 2025 NBA draft that I believe would be the best fit on the Philadelphia 76ers roster for next year. So we're going to start at 3, and then we're going to work our way down to 1 in terms of these prospects. And the third prospect of this 2025 class that I believe would be, best fit on the Sixers roster, freshman guard Kon Knipple out of Duke, averaged 14.4 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, and 2.7 assists per game in his lone freshman season there. She shot it really well, 40+% from beyond the arc, 91% from 3. And you watch him at a 6'6", 6'7" frame as a 2 guard. It's a pretty seamless kind of NBA transition there. He really shoots the ball well. His athleticism is something that is going to be the main kind of knock on his game, the main talking point about why he might not succeed at the next level. But you look at, I comp him to, it's pretty easy here with lack of better words, but another white guard out of Duke and Luke Kennard. You give me a guy in Kon Knipple that I think could potentially be like a Luke Kennard level scorer, level shooter off the bench, slide into the starting lineups on certain nights as well. I'm signing up for that if the Sixers are picking there at 5 or 6. If they're going to be picking in the upper 2 or 3, we're going to talk about 2 other guys that I think would be great fits on the roster as well. But Kon Knipple comes in and he does his job, and that's going to be space to the floor. And especially if the Sixers don't believe they're going to be able to afford and re-sign Quentin Grimes, who is a restricted free agent, Kon Knipple becomes an even better fit on this roster because they're going to need spacing and they're going to need shooting. But if you are able to roll out a lineup, not all at once, obviously, but if Joel Embiid is able to come back and be a 75-80% of himself and is able to function out there on the basketball court, and at any time you can have a combination of Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Kon Knipple, and Quentin Grimes out on the floor. Those are some pretty lethal, pretty deadly shooters. So Knipple, as we said, not the most athletic player. That's probably his main red flag, but he knows how to play well and under control. Finishes off 2 feet as well, uses his jump stops. He uses kind of, the fundamental techniques to his advantage due to his lack of athleticism, and it showed. It showed in the ACC play. It showed in the NCAA tournament. This was a guy that really kind of grew his game, I thought, and rounded out his game as the season went on. But his calling card obviously is going to be that knockdown shooting ability. And as I said, if you're able to roll out a lineup at any point with the combination of McCain, Knipple, Grimes, and Maxey to surround Joel Embiid, the spacing is going to be awesome and allow Joel Embiid to have, operating room on the block or at the elbow, at the free throw line, wherever it may be, and then have all these shooters spaced around him as well. I think Kon Knipple, if the Sixers did get that number 5 or number 6 overall pick, would be a perfect addition to the Sixers roster. So in terms of 3 guys that I'm looking to target in terms of fit and as well match with their talent on the Sixers roster, give me Kon Knipple there at number 3 to start us off. Number 2, we're going to head to the Big Ten with another freshman standout, Ace Bailey. Averaged 17.6 points per game this year, 7.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists. Not much of a playmaker, but coming in at 6'9", 6'10". A very intriguing and very entertaining player. His motor wasn't always running at 100% on the defensive end this year. But having watched him in person, the most impressive thing that kind of stuck out to me about him, watching him in person, I watched him early in the season against when they played Penn State. He crashes the glass hard on the offensive end and is constantly playing hard over there. On the defensive end, maybe it might not even been effort or motor level at sometimes, but just kind of lack of awareness, lack of just being locked in on that end of the floor. Those are things that you can teach, but you can't teach 6'10", and the ability to go out there and score like the way he does. Kevin Durant has been a comparison thrown out. Let's not get ahead of ourselves there with Kevin Durant, arguably a top 5 scorer, one of the top 10 to 15 players NBA history. But Ace Bailey, the talent is there, the makeup is there, the ability to make shots from all 3 levels is there. Turnaround jump shots, getting to the rim, dunking on guys. He can score from every level, and he does it in an extremely, impressive fashion. Not always the most efficient player, but a guy that really popped off and opened some eyes this year. And he was one of the top prospects in this class. Dylan Harper as well at Rutgers was a disappointing, kind of overall team perspective. But if you tuned in and watched that Rutgers team outside of Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, there wasn't really much to kind of go home with there. So this is a guy that, slides in perfectly at the 3 spot. Let's be honest with ourselves about Paul George. Are we expecting him to come back and be, the Paul George of 3-4 years ago? I don't think so. But it does sound like he's going to be on this roster when Daryl Morey speaking the other day and saying basically kind of we're running it back with the main guys, and hopefully knock on wood they're able to pick up one of these top 6 picks as well, and you can maybe slide in a guy like Ace Bailey into the lineup. Is he going to start right away? Maybe not behind Paul George, but maybe he goes in there and you slide him in at the 4 and kind of try and figure out with lineups with that. But you can't teach his raw natural scoring ability. He has athleticism, had 37 points one night against Northwestern. He's got the ability to go off and score in bunches, and you can kind of teach some of these other things like locking in on the defensive end more. He's got the frame, he's got the athleticism to be a defender. Is he just willing to do it? And as I said, I think it's kind of there because I saw it on the offensive end, crashing the glass hard for tip-ins, going for loose balls. He is a guy that plays hard and has a really strong motor on the offensive end, just needs to lock in a little bit more on the defensive end of the floor. And the last prospect that I want to break down, the number 1 guy in terms of fit, and he's also the number 1 prospect in this draft as well. Obviously, Cooper Flagg there. I think he's kind of, fit proof for any roster. He's a guy that you can throw him out there with any assortment of players, and he's going to make kind of everyone around him better. That's the most impressive thing I thought about him this year, the maturity of his game and just his willingness to play team basketball and just kind of fit in. Like, I don't think you ever looked at Cooper Flagg and it's like, wow, that's a guy that's going to average 30 points a game in the league. Or that's a guy that's going to shoot 50% and shoot 50% from 3 and average 25 a game. Like, no, I just watched him and I was just like, wow, he's just so damn good at everything he does. It was a stat sheet filler for sure. 19.2 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 4.2 assists. He's a seamless kind of plug and play there. I think you can just play him right next to Paul George. If the ideal starting lineup next year is, all right, let's start Tyrese Maxey at the 1, Quentin Grimes at the 2 if he's back. Then you put Paul George at the 3, you put Cooper Flagg at the 4, and you put Joel Embiid at the 5. I think that's a seamless kind of plug-and-play lineup, and Cooper Flagg is, obviously Joel Embiid, if he's on the floor, is still the main piece there. But Cooper Flagg, I think, kind of runs the show from there. Like, let Tyrese Maxey go back to just his scoring ability. Let Cooper Flagg do what he did best this year, I think, at Duke, and that was kind of just dictate the game and have everyone else around him get better. And that's the best thing I think you can say about an 18-year-old freshman who was playing in the ACC and is probably going to be, the national player of the year in college basketball this year. An overall just super impressive freshman season, not just on the offensive end, but the defensive end as well. He's going to make that defensive unit a lot better. And I think Paul George still was playing pretty well on the defensive side of the ball, and I thought his playmaking was good as well at times this year. Cooper Flagg, his scoring really grew, so that's something I think that will kind of continue to develop, but also, the lack of scoring or the lack of scoring punch from Paul George that we were probably expecting, some of that load gets transferred over to Cooper Flagg, and Paul George is maybe a little bit more of a playmaker. Cooper Flagg, just keep in mind, was supposed to be a high school senior this year, and he played up at Duke and was the best player in the country. So he's really kind of a roster proof player. I don't know the best overall term, but he can fit on any type of roster. There's a guy like Dylan Harper that we didn't touch on that, looking at the Sixers team, when I said it at the beginning, this is what more so about fit. I think Kon Knipple, Ace Bailey, Cooper Flagg are better fits on this roster right now. Dylan Harper's a guy that needs the ball in his hands. So does Tyrese Maxey. So does Jared McCain. McCain not as much, but you look at a guy like Knipple, he's going to just play off the ball. Ace Bailey, he's going to be, playing in the front court and scoring. Cooper Flagg is going to be doing everything for your team. Dylan Harper, he's going to need the ball in the backcourt, and the backcourt's a little bit tight right now. If the Sixers get the number 2 overall pick, will I be upset if they pick Dylan Harper? No, not at all. He's certainly a talented player, and he's going to have an awesome NBA career, I think. But would he fit really right on the Sixers roster next year kind of remains to be decided. Do they look to trade maybe a Jared McCain and look to improve, the forward spot? I hope not. I want to see Jared McCain here for the long term. What we saw from him in spurts this year was awesome. But in just terms of fit, I think Kon Knipple, Ace Bailey, and Cooper Flagg should be the 3 guys that the Sixers, as of right now, on April 15th, are eyeing the most in terms of just building that roster up for next year. There's certainly a bunch of talented guys. Jay Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, a lot of these guys can be in there for the debate. But like I said at the beginning, this is kind of just about fit and who would fit best on this roster. But I wouldn't be upset either if you're going out there and just saying we're taking the best guy available on the board and looking to stockboard some more talent. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know Kon Knipple might be a little bit of a, disagreement for some people. They might say, just screw it. Let's get Dylan Harper. I think he fits. Maybe a guy like Trey Johnson, his shot making fits best. But I think Knipple, Ace Bailey, and Flagg are your top 3 fits for this draft coming up. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, please drop a like, drop a subscribe. We'll have plenty more draft coverage. I'll be hammering it out over the next month and into June as well here on Sixers Digest. But as always, thank you everyone for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll be talking to you next time here.